Thank you for turning to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at something from Megatraveller, COACC, the Close Orbit and Airspace Control Command. This is a segment of Traveller I had never really considered, the Air Force, the Space Force of Traveller. I'd always just considered kind of the ground forces with the Army and the Marines, or of course, whatever was going on in space. So when I first got this book, it was a bit of an eye-opener for me. So we're going to take a look through here and take a look at what this book gave us. It's a nice little book. I liked it. I liked Megatraveller's offerings. One of my favorite runs of Traveller was Megatraveller. I didn't like the Rebellion era, but I liked the actual products that came out from Megatraveller. Also, I want to mention that I announced a Patreon over the last couple of videos. I just want to restate it. I am starting up a Patreon for the channel. The idea behind the Patreon is to improve the channel, to continue to give me the time to do the research needed. These 10 to 12 minute videos, however long these end up being, might seem pretty easy to do, but the research and the background reading take up a lot of time. So in order to continue to do them at the same level I've been doing them, I'm just reaching out a little bit with the Patreon to keep the channel up and running, give it a little budget to work with, get some better technical equipment, maybe a nice Traveller backdrop, that sort of thing. So if you can help out, fantastic. If you can't, no problem. Right now, I don't know specific rewards for the Patreon. I'm actually going to be relying on you for that. So I'm going to be looking for some feedback. What rewards, if any? Maybe you want to do the Patreon where it's just a Patreon and there is no actual reward per se, or maybe you want reward per level. We can look at that, discuss it, and then figure out what we'll do from there. Right now, it'll strictly be a Patreon to help support the channel and keep it up and running. So that's all I've got to say on that. Today we're going to take a look at COACC for Megatraveller on page 121. COACC, Close Orbit and Airspace Control Command. Aircraft and Flyers for Megatraveller. This is pretty neat. This was during the Rebellion that this book came out. This was published in 1989. And the idea was that you wanted to capture the various worlds for your faction and exploit them. To that end, COACC would be the defender of the world. And COACC would work with the SDBs, the system defense boats, in space around the planet or the protected area. And then these would be the Air Force that would control the high orbitals and then eventually just help out on battlefields. The reason I say this is interesting that it came out in Megatraveller was, of all the Traveller eras, Megatraveller pretty much destroyed the most worlds. After a while, instead of trying to capture worlds, each faction just started denying it to the enemy, so they were bombing them back to the Stone Age. So then COACC becomes a lot less important. If you're just going to stay off and maybe throw a dinosaur killer at a planet, there's not much COACC can do to mitigate that. So it became less important as the Rebellion went on, but it's still a pretty neat idea, and it was something I had never really considered in Traveller. Kind of an intermediary between being on the planet of the surface and being in space. So I like that about this book. We're going to take a look inside. Let's see, the design was Terry McGinnis. I believe that's how you would pronounce his name. Terry, I apologize if I mispronounced your name. And then the cover illustration, A.C. Farley. I like the Megatraveller look. I like the artwork. And we go into the origins of COACC, where it came from, why you need it. Well, you need it once you start flying. You're going to need some kind of air control, be it the Air Force, be it the Space Force, whatever it's going to be. You need it once you start to fly, and then you start using them in battle. Here's the origins of COACC as brought out in the early Air Forces and then the early Space Forces, and the area of command. And this chart really kind of played with my imagination quite a bit, because you have the Close Orbit and Airspace Control Command. This would be the limit of the atmosphere to 1 to 10 diameter limit. And after that, you go to the Navy. So you have COACC controlling all the atmosphere, and then you've got Ground Force Command and Nautical Force Command. Nautical Force Command was something else that always kind of teased my imagination in Traveller, the idea of actually using ships. But you would still need them. So kind of neat. And then we get a bunch of aircraft specs going all the way back to rigid airships, It was a cool idea. It was something I'd never considered before. I remember the day I bought this book. My wife and I had been married about 2 years. We didn't have any kids yet. I got home from work before she did. I sat down at the kitchen table and I just tore into this thing. I thought this was such a cool idea. And then we get military control of the atmosphere. Why you want it? You, of course, want to control the high ground. In modern warfare, the high ground is the aerial. You want the aerial control to give you information, give you tactical flexibility, give you the ability to attack the enemy. And here we have a Ypres primitive fighter, tech level 5 biplane. That's just cool. You would encounter this in Traveller. Various worlds would have various levels of tech. So the idea of a Tucson tech level 6 fighter brought out here, you may encounter that in Traveller. COACC organization, how you would break down your world. So the World High Command would be over the Nautical Command, COACC, and Ground Command. But then we break into how COACC is split out into all their forces. Pretty neat. As far as old ships versus new fighting ships, there's a great old movie from about 1980 called The Final Countdown, where the nuclear aircraft carrier Enterprise goes back in time to December 6th, 1941, and its commander has to decide if he's going to defend the United States of America as it's being attacked at Pearl Harbor. It's a really good film. I recommend it highly. Okay, coming over to the air units, here's another breakdown of how the air command would be. And then we get a Cheyenne Tech Level 6 jet fighter brought out to us, kind of a wireframe sketch. Typical of the Megatraveller era. I like these sketches. We get all kinds here. We get aircraft themselves. This is a Laramie Tech Level 7 jet fighter called out. And what the aircraft are, what they can do, how they perform. And now we start getting into some hypersonic fighters and interceptors. This is a Tech Level 9 that's called out here. And now we start getting into combat support aircraft. Surveillance, jamming and deception, target designation, aerial tankers, and air assault transport. All very important in any kind of mechanized theater of war. Another Tech Level 8 jet fighter, Abilene. This book just merely, I rethought everything about Traveller when I read this book. I have put in COACC control. It can be important, especially on a planet where there's a higher law level, and maybe the tech level is only around an 8 or a 9, but it's still a pretty high law level for whatever reason. COACC can play a big role for your travelers. Your travelers land in an outback somewhere with an idea of doing whatever they want to do in private, and they find out that there's reconnaissance planes overhead, and they've been found out. So just different things. I know you can do all that with satellites, but that's not the point of this book. Here's a Tech Level 6 attack aircraft, the Nuremberg. These are just nice. The aircraft design themselves. And how this is, you're getting into some of the nuts and bolts of how you would make them, kind of the high guard for this book. Just a nice book. Here we go. Fixed wing aircraft design. The high guard version of this, if you will. How you would make your ships so you can make your own. And we continue on through that. And then we come to helicopters. Helicopters didn't play a significant role in combat until Vietnam. They were used as medical transport primarily in Korea and some combat, but they really came into their own in Vietnam. And now, of course, they're everywhere, and they're incredibly useful vehicles. So here's how we would design them. Rotary wing aircraft design. The Lombard Tech Level 10 helicopter. And now we start getting into airship design. There we go. There's another light helicopter, Tech Level 5. Air-to-air combat. How do you conduct air-to-air combat? Traveler's combat here is a little cinematic. There's not a ton of the nuts and bolts. One of the things I had always thought to do with this idea would be to take the rules from something like Silent Death and adapt them to air-breathing aircraft. Could be a lot of fun. Could be an interesting way to bring some real detail into your atmospheric combat in Traveller. And then the Mexico City Tech Level 9 bomber is called out right here. Here we go. Active radar versus passive radar. Homing radar. Just all kinds of goodies in here that are kind of below the tech level we're used to in Traveller. And that's really what got me interested in this book. Air-to-ground combat. How do we bomb a target? That kind of stuff. Here it is. And you're going to notice, again, the tech stays pretty low in these. I like this layout. Tech level 8 frontier transport. You're not getting into a lot of stuff because that's the idea behind this book. You're not really dealing with science fiction so much as just fiction and science, I guess. I don't know how you want to say it. This is a Nairobi vertical takeoff and landing of VTOL frontier transport. VTOL first made famous with the Harrier jets. I'm sure there are many others now that I'm not thinking of at the moment. But the idea of a vertical takeoff and landing is you don't need a big airstrip that you have to maintain. It can be taken away from you or denied you. The vehicle just needs a clear spot to lift up and out of like a helicopter. And now we go to aircraft ordnance, machine guns, autoguns, bombs. And you can beef this up however you want. Any kind of Gauss cannon, anything like that would be really interesting on a fixed-wing aircraft. Air-to-air missiles, autocannons, high-explosive rockets, bombs, all kinds of good stuff. Ground-to-air combat. How do you fight back against the Air Force? Okay, and again, we get a Tech Level 7 personal jet helicopter. We don't go real high in this, which is one of the things I liked about this. This would be what a Tech Level 8, 9 level planet would have. They would have, a Tech Level 8 heavy cargo jet. This one's the Mexico City. Daily maintenance points. How do you maintain your Air Force? It's called out here. Again, for anything you're doing in Traveller, this will translate very easily. Megatraveller is not all that different than Mongoose 2nd edition. So translating this stuff is minimal and can breathe a life or air breathe a lot of life into your campaign. How you defend an actual world. As I've said, if you've got a situation where they just want to bomb the world out of existence, then COACC's not going to be much. But if it's a world they're trying to capture for resources or strategic position, whatever, then that's where this book comes into its own. And now here we got our first real high tech level thing, a Magnum class Tech Level 15 heavy fighter. So here are your fighter jets at the high tech. And then we get the Edom campaign. And this is set in Edom's subsector in Daguded Shigag. I can never say Fulani words. I apologize. And it talks about, this gives us a sample campaign of how we would use COACC in the campaign. There's the little campaign map for it. And then we get to, we're still in the campaign. Now we go to flyer characters. It's a new character type for Traveller. You've always dreamed of flying things. Well, here you go. You got a flyer character. This is a guy that works for COACC. He doesn't fly starships. He flies a fighter jet. There you go. And there's your enhanced flyer characters. So pretty sweet book. I liked 95 pages plus a page of ads, so 96 in the book. I liked this book a lot when it came out. I've used ideas out of this book straight through my Traveller career. I recommend it highly. I think it's a high value for anybody's Traveller library. It's available on Drive-Thru RPG. It's available through Far Future Enterprises on the CD-ROM or thumb drives for, I think, $35 for the set. Megatraveller, I believe, had so much stuff. I believe it's 2 sets. You don't need anything else from Digest Games or anything like that to play this. This works with just the Megatraveller rules, and this was given out by GDW. So that's all I've got to say about COACC. I recommend it completely. I think you'll enjoy it. I think it'll mess around with your imagination, if nothing else. And I hope you give it a try. So that's all I've got today from page 121. Thank you for watching. I appreciate the time. If you liked what you heard and saw, please like and subscribe. If you can help support the channel a little bit, please don't forget the Patreon. And I'll see you next time. Page 121.